Hello, welcome to Awaken Your Creative Self. I am your host, Claudia Chen. I'm super honored to bring on today's guest expert, all the way from Nigeria. She is an actress and a multiple award-winning media personality. She's also a talk radio host, speaker, author, reinventive coach, communication strategist, and creative consultant who helps high-performing experts around the world amplify their influence and create a bigger impact with their brands, platforms, messages, products, or services. She is the creator of the Naked Philosophy, as well as the CEO and creative director at the Bragg Media Company. I would like to present to you Alex Okoroji. Hi, Alex. Welcome to the show.
Hi.
I'm so happy to have you.
Hello, Claudia. I am so excited to be joining you all the way from around the world, right all the way from Africa. So yes, thank you so much for having me here.
First of all, I would like to acknowledge Alex because where she is right now is 2 a.m. in the morning. So thank you very much for coming on here with us. So to start off, Alex, would you be able to just share a little bit more about you? I know I've presented a long list of things that you have accomplished, but why don't we hear from your mouth, like what your journey has been like for you and get to where you are today?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for a fantastic introduction, Claudia. What am I? Everyone calls me the queen of expression, but usually I would refer to myself as a multi-passionate artist, right? A reinvention coach and a creative consultant. And when people wonder artist, yes, I've reinvented myself over the years as a performing artist, a literary artist, and a visual artist. And my journey, going all the way, my journey started pretty much as an actor, so I started as an actress in 2005. First thing I did was feature on a reality television show. So I was on a reality TV show. It was a show for actors. And I got on that show. And right after that show, I was like, okay, you know what? I can build a career in this, right? So I started doing television and, films and movies and, I've done quite a bit in the entertainment industry to, starting my own radio show. I used to host some daytime TV show and all of that, to eventually, writing books and finally setting up my own business, setting up a media company and creative agency, and just wanting to, help people to be able to accomplish some of their dreams as well. So as the queen of expression, I use multiple mediums of art, because people ask me, what does that mean? Really is like, okay, I use different mediums of art and I work with empowering people to be able to do the same for themselves. So I get to meet a lot of multi-passionate people who sometimes have, corporate day jobs, but then they also have talents and, skills and hobbies and just unfulfilled desires. And, they want to achieve these things and I just help them make it happen. So that's it.
Super awesome. So I just want to understand a little bit more about the African culture. So can you just share with us, like, with your journey to becoming an actor, as in how does the Nigerian society and culture in regards to giving you that roadblocks, and how you as a woman and as a creative entrepreneur have to overcome these roadblocks?
Okay, first of all, every woman in the entertainment industry, and I don't know if that's just in Africa alone, right? But I think even in Hollywood, usually have to work 100 times over to be able to earn their respect, right? Especially when you're in an industry where there are lots of expectations of you. Growing up in the African culture, now it's okay, it's permissible because the world is so much more, open, and there are all of these, interrelated cultures, and people now understand. But at the time when I was growing up, or, just right before I wanted to even become an actor, you're in the industry and there are certain expectations. And when you have goals and ambitions and dreams, there is a tendency for people to expect as a woman that you're getting favors or you're giving favors, especially if you're in the industry. Of course, you're held into certain high standards or expectations. And there are people who feel like, actors are, bimbos, airheads, there's just that thing that, she's just a pretty face, right? Assumption. And sometimes, you also might be labeled by the characters that you play in films, or just, what the media might sensationalize you to be. So it's hard for people to get to see the real you and hear your real voice. And that's a challenge in a culture where women are held to certain standards. And really in the African culture, your place is supposed to be, in the kitchen, right? Go to a job and be in the kitchen. So you having a career that takes you all over the place, of what constantly puts you in the forefront, in the face of everyone else. That is a challenge. And sometimes you have to sort of work your way through all of that. So for me, I had that challenge, especially going through separation and divorce, for example, in the public light, right? Because I used to be married to another actor from another country. And that was very like, okay, it's like having a public divorce, right? Because everybody knows your story, or think they know your story. So you have to, it's a challenge, but the good thing about what I tried to do, especially when I was reinventing myself, I just realized I felt like there was so much more to me than, what the media or just the perception of who, your character is. I wanted people to hear my original voice. Because the thing about playing a role is that, you have the voice of character. Right. And so people may not are not able to tell Alex from her character, right, that she plays on television. They don't know what Alex likes and what she, so you can spend 20 years in a career where people don't really know you. They know the character, they know what they read in the papers, they know what they read in the magazine, but they don't know you. So I needed to express other parts of myself and use other mediums where people could really hear my original voice, where people could read what I was writing and listen to my show and listen to the conversations I wanted to have and tell the stories that I wanted to tell without, being just labeled by the characters I was playing on television. So.
And that's so important. I mean, like, as for you as an actress, like, you are out in the public, and what you're showing is just only like the iceberg. And for, like, I think for every one of us, we're only really showing the public the iceberg. And for you especially, like, it's probably a lot more magnified because everyone's talking about you and things like that. I think one of the things with creative expression is the fear of criticism. I would like to just go on a tangent, because I think it's one of the things when it comes to creative is to be open to kind of deal with that. Can you just share a little bit about like your strategies, or like how did you deal with all those negative criticism?
It's so this just reminds me of how when I, just before I got to the place where I really, found my voice, and when I reinvented myself, I had this real fear. And I think that happens to everyone who's in the public. Well, if you run a business too, maybe you might feel that way. Well, you're afraid of, making mistakes. You're afraid of what people are going to say. You're afraid of societal expectations of you. You have all this fear, right, that we're cultivating and carrying around. And for me, for a long time, even when I did things, even when I got married, for example, it's somewhere inside of me, I kind of knew it was, like I had reservations. But then, you think about what everybody thinks about it. They all think you guys look good together. You're thinking of societal expectations. You're thinking, oh my God, I'm a woman. I have to do this now. And you forget, you have all these fear. And when it wasn't working, I was also afraid of telling people the truth. I was afraid of, at the point I was lying, I'd be like, oh, we're good, even when things weren't so good. So for me, how I overcame that was really what I'd like to call right now the freedom mindset. It's the naked philosophy. I had to tell myself the naked truth. And I think the first thing that happens is that you get to a place where enough is enough. You're going to say, you know what? I'm totally tired of the life that I have right now, or I'm tired of where things are now, and I really want them to change. And so for me, I had to tell myself the truth that I needed to give myself a little bit more freedom, right? And when I say freedom, I was thinking more of a mental freedom. Like I was holding on to so much limiting beliefs, things that I thought that I was supposed to do. Things I thought that, society expected of me. And I held myself to those things, to their standards, as opposed to what I really wanted for myself. And, instead of working on my own clock, I was working on everybody else's clock, right? I wanted to do what everybody else expected of me. I wanted to do, and then you can't do what everybody else expects of you. So you fail at that, right? And you make these mistakes and you're unhappy. And they're still talking, and you have all of these. So for me, I think the biggest challenge that I think a lot of creatives face is fear. And the antidote to fear is freedom, because fear and freedom cannot exist in the same place. Because when you have inhibitions, whatever they are, now could be, mental freedom, really releasing yourself from, boundaries, what I'd like to call restrictions, mental restrictions, or societal restrictions, just all of the things that you know that are holding you back from actually achieving your highest. So for me, my biggest strategy was getting to the place where I felt free. So the first step with that was I started journaling. I was writing, I started journaling, really just literally expressing how I felt, just how my day was going, my thoughts about, just the things that I was feeling, but I couldn't really share because, again, in the Nigerian culture, having a psychologist or a shrink or seeing, a counselor at the time wasn't, it wasn't a thing, it wasn't something that we did, right? I was afraid of telling anybody what I was feeling, especially when I was going through separation at first and divorce. I was a new mom at the time, just had a baby. My baby was like 6 months old when my marriage was ended. And so I was afraid of my story, me telling somebody, and it was front page news. So I would keep it to myself. But I was overwhelmed. I was afraid. I was like, what am I going to do? I'm a new mom. Am I going to be able to book more jobs? Is my body going to change? My body's changing. How do I, what am I going to do? I have all of these other dormant skills and talents I'm not using. How do I introduce myself? Do I, go back to my, I was confused about a lot of things. And so journaling helped me to put down my thoughts, into paper, and to clearly have some kind of, so just some sort of clarity about how I was feeling, and eventually me putting out there in the world and then just healing. So.
That's super powerful in terms of what you said, like you have to be truthful to yourself. That's because a lot of people are just going by the day, not even realizing that they know that they're unhappy, but they don't know what it is. But then they're also in denial of what they're experiencing at that moment. And there's a lot of fear and of the outside expectation. So that like acceptance and that acknowledgement of what you really want, what you're feeling. And that's so powerful. Would you be able to just talk a little bit more about that? Because I think that's one of the things that a lot of people are kind of struggling with, but they don't really know how to go about doing it. Like other than the journaling, like what exactly are you looking for when you're doing a journaling?
Okay, so let me start from the beginning. When I say, when we talk about the naked philosophy, right? I would say that there are like 3 processes in terms of how my journey went. The first, me saying, okay, telling yourself the truth is really where the first stage, which is expression. You want to express what you're going. So expression could either be communication, right? A declaration. It could be a declaration. It could be, declaration of, a challenge that you're feeling, affirmation of a challenge that you're feeling, or declaration of a desire. So it could either be you saying, okay, this is a problem, a challenge that I have, or this is something that I'm going through. This is how I'm feeling. Expression is very important because expression leads you to awareness, right? Or this is something that I really want. So in my own, so for some people, it might be okay. As communication or as expression, you are, declaring a challenge could be saying, oh, you know what, I'm not happy with the way my life is right now. Or maybe I wish I could lose a few pounds, right? I don't like the weight that I'm carrying now. Or maybe I wish I was earning more money, or I'm tired of being broke, or I wish I could find love. I want to be in a relationship, or it could be anything. It could be just be, oh, I want to start a new career, or whatever that may be. Well, of course, a desire could you just be declaring something that you really want, right? And that is important because expression, creates awareness. And then, once you're able to express whatever it is that you're dealing with, you have to come to that place where you need to honestly share what that is. Of course, there are 2 ways to do that. One could be you talking to someone who's a coach or a counselor or a psychologist. The other way is you journal. So not everybody has the opportunity to be able to speak to someone or a trusted friend or whoever it is, or your journal. So you have to find one way, talk therapy or journal therapy. And then, of course, that takes you to the next stage, which is awareness, because now you come into an awareness when you say, okay, in expression, if you say, oh, I don't like how I wish, I don't like that I'm overweight, and I'd love to lose some, a few pounds. In the awareness stage, you're now able to ask yourself a couple of good questions like, how did I get here? Why am I overweight? What is it that I'm doing? Why, or let's say a desire is I'd love to start a side hustle or business as something, or I'd like to, explore my creativity, getting to the awareness stage is okay. What are the skills I have? What exactly would I like? Why am I not yet utilizing my skills? What are the things that I need to do to get this goal into action? What action steps would I need to take? What would be required of me? Is there something that I need to learn? Do I need to work with someone? Is there someone that I need to coach me or guide me? Do I need to get new skills? So these are, once you get into that phase of awareness, then we're able to sort of ask ourselves the right questions that help us to answer certain questions. And when we do that, we're now able to enter into the transformation stage where we actually take action on those things. So let's say we figured out why you're not earning enough money. Maybe you're spending, you're paying, maybe you're spending more than you need. Maybe you're not saving enough. Maybe you're not, getting more opportunity. So you answer these questions, or maybe let's say you're, looking for a relationship, or you're looking for love in the wrong places, or maybe you're not available enough, or maybe you're, you answer these questions and then, okay, this is the challenge that I have. And this is why I'm here. And when you get into transformation phase, you can now take action. So that's pretty much the journey that I went through with myself. I had to tell myself the naked truth. I was like, okay, you're not going to be the first person who's married to doing work. You're not going to end up the first single mother. Yes, things have changed about you. Your body's changed a little bit. You may not be the it girl like you were a few years ago, but there are other things you can do. You have other skills. You have other talents. What are the things that you can do and rebuild a life? You've always wanted to have your own voice out there. Is there something you can do? What can you do with the skills that you have? And, that's when I started. I was like, okay, but, I'm dealing with this. And the first thing I did really was put out my first, I was writing stuff, and I was like, okay, I'm going to share this with the world. And sometimes you're afraid that people are going to judge you. And, I put it out in the world, like put it up on Facebook or something. I think it was like 2008 or so. And everyone's like, oh my God, this is, I can relate to you, and all of a sudden it created, like, for some people, they're like, okay, she's a real person. She's a real human being. She has challenges too, like us, and that sort of changed for me. I immediately felt like, okay, I have a community. I immediately felt like I wasn't alone. And that sort of made me feel, that bravery, that courage I had to put my story out there, made me start writing. And I was like, okay, I'm going to keep sharing, and maybe this might help somebody. And before you know, my blog was, I birthed the blog. And from there, I was like, okay, I'm enjoying this. Alexandra and her naked thoughts. I'm really getting naked. And everyone seems to like what I'm, sharing all of these things that I'm thinking that other people are feeling, but are not brave enough to share. And that gave birth to, like, okay, let's take this to the radio. I would love to get other people's perspective. And that radio, I created the Naked Talk, and that came, a book later, The Naked Truth, and, just all the other things that I've created out of just expressing myself. So.
Oh my gosh, like I got chills just listening to what you have to say. I think one of the things that I want to let people know is that during your awareness stage, when you're thinking that, oh, I'm either overweight, or I'm this or I'm that, I just wanted to say that this is just your awareness, but you have to kind of detach yourself from the negative emotion that comes with it. It's not wrong. It's not something you have to be, you may be ashamed of it, but you should remove yourself from that thought, because this is just the reality that you have to acknowledge. And right now I'm working with a coach, and I think this is the one thing that I am also learning in the process. And just by being aware and being truthful to ourselves, then that's when you can make that change. And I also really like how you were saying that, like, when you are able to share it with others and have that courage, then that's when you're really making that connection with others, because I think everyone have that problem. But it's just sometimes they may be going through it, but they're not really consciously aware of that. So like I really love that story. That's why I really wanted people to listen to that.
No, it's really important. And I'm glad that you say that about detaching yourself from, just the negative aspect of it. And that's the truth. The truth is, when you get to that awareness phase, this is not about you judging yourself, and it's not about you beating yourself up. It's about acknowledging so you can make change. Because let's be honest, we can't fix what we're not aware of, right? If you don't know there's a problem, you can't fix it. So the idea of the awareness is to just be honest and, honest with grace, like, okay, this is what I'm going through, but I'm not, because you're not stopping in awareness, you're moving to transformation so you can actually take action and change that thing. And we have the power to create the life, that we want. We really do have that power. We just need to really be aware that we do. And then, we take some action.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is you actually have a science background. Could you share with us a little bit more about that? And like, how did you think that helped you in making you a little bit more creative?
Okay, so for a traditional artist, right? Most people would have studied, initially maybe theater or music or something of creative arts or something like that, or be, just study the arts. And even though I did eventually, initially when I was growing up, right, I grew up, my father was a musician, my mom was a fashion designer, so I grew up in a lot of arts. Like, it was a pretty artistic home. There were books, movies, music all around the house. So as a child, I knew that I had all of these skills, and but at that time we just thought they were hobbies, right? So you're growing up like, oh, what's your hobby? My hobby is acting. I like to sing. Those were hobbies, right? You didn't ever really think they would be career choices. So growing up, as a child, I wanted to be a doctor, or my mom wanted me to be a doctor. So I thought I was going to be a doctor, and the little acting and writing and all of that were just hobbies, things we did, playtime. And so when I got to college, I was doing, I chose the sciences. And so I did chemistry and I did biology and physics and everything a science students would do. And rather than go to the arts and do literature and English and everything else, I was in the sciences. And even though I ended up not becoming a doctor, right, I did, want to become a biochemist for a while. So but where does that come to place right now as a creative, and how is that helping me? I think my science background sits as the practical side of me. As an artist, and I have all of these crazy ideas. And I get to meet a lot of my clients who have a lot of crazy ideas too, want to do so many amazing things. And sometimes your ideas can go in a lot of different directions, right? So you want to do everything. You want to go to the moon. You want to go to Mars. You want to do all these crazy things. But the science part of me, somehow is thinking in a practical sense. Yes, I have all these crazy ideas, but 1 + 1 needs to make 2 or 11. I'm thinking how 1 + 1 can. So then the science part is giving me structure, right? I'm thinking, okay, let's put some structure to this. We can't go crazy with our ideas. Alex, I know you want to do all of the things, but how are you going to make it happen? Practically, logically, and in what time frame? So I know you want to do it right now, this moment, but that's impossible. Unlike most artists, we're very, for lack of a better word, we're like free birds, right? We're just creating, and we're just hoping everything will happen. And we're dreamers, and we live in this fantasy world, and it's an idealistic world. But with my science background, helps me to be more realistic about the goals and to be more practical about what it would take to actually accomplish that. And I think that's a good thing, because at the end of the day, I also see creativity as strategy. And strategy requires structure. It requires planning. It requires, putting really structure in a sense. So that helps, the work that I do today, pretty much.
In terms of talking about creativity as a structure, I think I've never really thought about that, but because I have a science background. So for me, creativity, as you said, it's like a free bird, like out there, And that is actually very true, because in order for you to create something, there has to be some sort of structure. Then you kind of sit down and then you create. And yeah, that's a good way to think about that. Now, so what does creativity mean to you? And why do you think people should tap into their creativity?
Creativity is finding innovative solutions to a problem. That's what it is to me. I think creativity is really having innovative solutions to problems. And everybody needs to tap into that, because let's be honest, we all need to be able to, provide solutions to our daily problems, our daily challenges, but also to the world's problems. And innovation is so important. So most times people see creativity as just art And while art imitates life, creativity is in how you get your children to eat that meal they don't want to eat, right? How you get your children to eat that meal. Sometimes you're creative about the preparation of dinner. That's creativity. You're like, okay, I can make rice in 5-6 different ways. That's creativity, right? My little kid doesn't like this, so I can do it this other way and kind of trick them to take it, sort of get them to say yes to it. That's creativity. Creativity is also how you deal with your colleagues at work or your boss, or just, it's how you come up with. So creativity really is finding innovative. And I think the base, of the life that we live every day is that we accustom challenges, obstacles every day in our daily living. And so if you're a creative thinker, you're able to say, okay, what strategy can I use right now to deal with this problem? Okay, I'm not very, Claudia, you said something to me, I didn't really like that, but because I don't want to ruin my relationship and my friendship with Claudia, I have to creatively think of how to address that issue with her, right? So that there is a solution, and that, we don't, so that the relationship is still intact, right? So creativity is so much more than just art. It is strategy, it is solution, it is innovative thinking. And I think that even though most people don't think that they're creatives, if you can think, you can create. So how do you create, how do you go around? There's always a solution. I believe, a mind that's open always has solutions. So you have to think about it and say, okay, what alternative ways can I do this? What other way can I do this? What other answer do I have to this problem? Is 1 + 1 going to give me just this? If I add, somebody says, oh, I remember one time some years ago, I was going to paint one of the bedrooms in a home that I just moved into. And I wanted to create something so weird. We wanted to create pink, because you can tell I like pink, right? But there was one part of the world I was going to paint like pink. And the paints didn't actually come in pink. You're right. They don't originally come in pink. So I was like, how are we going to get pink? So I'm thinking, how are we going to do this? And we're like, okay, we could mix red and white. So we mixed red and white, and we were able to mix them to get the shade of pink, right? So I didn't know that you could put red and white and you could get pink, right? And there are some shades of, aqua blue, and we could pick a royal blue. And so the thing is, sometimes the answer isn't there. But if you think just a little bit deeper, or you think a little bit, you might be able to find your way around resolving that. That's what I see happening, and I try to teach people how to sort of strategically think around their challenges.
One of the things that you talk about is, that you touch upon, is how to get your kid to eat. Oh my gosh, for these, no word of a lie, these few nights of this past week, I've been trying to get my son to eat from playing rock, paper, scissors with him. But oh my gosh, it's it's seriously, you just have to keep thinking outside the box. And just by applying that creative solution is going to lessen your frustration with that situation or the problem, then you kind of feel like you have some sort of a control. You whether it works out or not, then it's like, okay, you know what, I can do this, I can think of something else, instead of you getting frustrated with the situation, and then you are lashing out at other people, or lashing out at your son being a pain in the butt.
You just reminded me of a story, and I quickly need to share this because this is so funny. And I think I wrote something about this. So I remember my son's 6th birthday. When he was just going to turn 6, he had been saying, oh, he wanted a cake and candles, right? He wanted to blow out a candle, because every time we celebrated a birthday before then, he didn't really remember it, right? So, kids don't remember their first birthday, their second birthday. They don't really remember anything unless you keep the pictures. But he didn't have any personal memories of that. But he was 6 now, a little bit wise, and said, oh, mommy, I want to blow out candles on my cake. And so on his birthday, I was like, okay, great, we'll get you cake and candles. And on his birthday, I had some, shoots, I had recordings, I had so much to do. I was like, oh my God, I can't get cake and candles. We have cake but no candles. I tried to get my, my brother and my cousin and my dad, everybody to look for candles, and we couldn't find candles around it. It was crazy. By the time, people got back from work, there were no candles. So I was like, oh my God, I made a promise. And I'm the mom who likes to keep my promise. I was like, what am I going to do? No cake and candles. So we got I literally had to, my dad was like, you know what, let's do something. How's he going to know that they're okay candles? So we got like, wax candles. It was so funny. We got some real wax candles and we're like, okay, we're going to make this really fast just so we don't have wax all over the cake. He wants to blow candles, right? These are candles. So we, got like some wax candles, like big long wax candles, and they were like, okay, 6. So we had them in the cake and we're like, okay, quickly, fast, blow it out. And he counted and he was like, he blew the candles out and he was happy, right? All he knew was that he got to blow cake and he had cake and candles. We quickly took it out so they won't be wax. But what am I saying in essence is that I literally could have been like, no candles, right? Mm-hmm. And that would have been a sad day for him. Mm-hmm. What he wanted was to blow out candles on his cake. And my job was to make it happen. So what am I saying is that sometimes we're going to face, there's always a solution. It might not be exactly what you were thinking. It might not be your original plan, but there's always plan B and C and D as long as you're creative.
That is such an awesome story. And you know what? And I think we're so hung up on, you know what? We need to sing the song before you blow out candles, but you don't have to, like, you don't, like, just because it's been done for a while, you don't necessarily have to follow it. You can sing the song after. They're not going to know, That is a really good story, definitely. Okay, so we are getting very close to the end of the time, but I really want to talk about this because you talked about how you're multi-passionate. And I want to touch on this topic because being able to do so much and accomplish so much. And I know there are a lot of people who are kind of concerned about picking one thing or the other. I want you to kind of just go a little bit more in depth about this area.
As a multi-passionate person, first of all, let me say that I was very ashamed of that. Now I can talk about it and I can brag about being multi-passionate, but for a long time, just before really understanding who I was ashamed, right? And I was ashamed because society, tradition really raises us to believe that we need to be one thing or the other. So if you say you want to be this and this and that, or you do this and this and that, you appear to be confused. Like you say, jack of all trades and master. I think I remember saying this, but I realized I was a Jill of many trades and mistress of some. So you have this fear that you might be perceived as confused or, perceived as not being serious. So for me, what I found out that I think that most people can do, because that's what I do, is finding a common denominator, right? Something that's aligns with all of your interests, right? It could be the common message, maybe a theme, or maybe just a goal. So using myself as an example, even though I have, everything that I'm doing, there's a connection. That way, I don't have to do everything at the same time. I can do one and I'm still meeting the goal. I'm doing the other. So when I started out with my blog called Alexandra and the Naked Thoughts, I had a radio show called The Naked Talk, and I had a book called The Naked Truth, and I had, a conference, a challenge called the Naked Challenge, and I have the Naked. So what I'm saying in essence, that everything had one goal and one mission. So if for any reason I wasn't able to write a blog post on my blog this week, I'm just saying, but I'm able to do the show, I didn't feel like I was missing out. I wasn't under pressure because I felt like I was meeting my goal, my mission week after. So in essence, you're going to have to find what the common theme is. It could be a connection in terms of, it could be the goal, it could be the message, it could be the mission, it could be the purpose, it could just be why you're doing. Find what connects all of these multi-passions so that there is some kind of synergy and it doesn't look like you have several different disconnected things, So let's say you are in the medical, there are doctors who have podcasts, right? And, their podcast is based on everything that's going on in their industry or their expertise, right? So, they could be writing blogs and contributing to news, to magazines, and they're writing about the healthcare system or the healthcare industry. So there's a common, even though they're doing all of these different things, right? There's some sort of common theme. You can see that everything is connected to their expertise or to their industry, or to a subject matter or to a personal interest. So the real solution is finding what connects all of it so that it's there's a synergy.
That's a super great tip to have. And I think a lot of people are so scared that they can't dabble into this, they can't dabble into that. And then they kind of freeze because they cannot choose something. And I think coming up with that theme also kind of like, it's kind of like your authentic voice that you talk, like I feel like what you're talking about is like what you're trying to bring to the world. What message do you have? Like, who are you? And I think just having that kind of overarching theme, then that kind of allows you to dabble in a lot of other things. So that is a really great suggestions that you have for us. So before we wrap up, I know that Alex has a free gift for us. Could you tell us a little bit more about this free gift, Alex?
Well, it's an ebook and an audio. So it's an ebook and it has an audio companion. It's called Reveal: How to Uncover the Success That Belongs to You. And this, ebook is supposed to help you basically show you how to amplify your influence and impact in the world, and how to reveal, the best elements of yourselves, how to reveal your brilliance and your greatness, and just the important things to so it explains a little bit more about expression, and we show you how to utilize that freedom and all the things you need to do, things that I've done pretty much to be able to, show up as the highest expression of myself. So that's my free gift.
All right, that's such a some free gift and is jam-packed with information. So thank you very much for your generosity. And so tell us before we wrap up, where can people find you?
Well, the best place to go to is my website. It's www. It's alexokoroji.me. Me as in Emmy, not you, me. That was a joke. It's alexokoroji.me, right? And when they get there, they can find everything else, the social media, but the website is the best place to go. Yes.
And her website is beautiful, so you have to check it out. All right, Alex, I'd like to say thank you again for making yourself available at this inconvenient time. I feel really honored, and it was a pleasure to chat with you and get to know you more. And I really enjoyed our talk.
I enjoyed our talk too. Thank you so much, Claudia, and thank you for doing this. This is really amazing, and I'm so honored to just be doing this with you. So thank you so much for having me.
All right, we'll connect soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.